picks up the slipstream, now has the inside line. Alonso up into third place.
In the first episode of the latest Drive to Survive series, Aston Martin was on a roll. Alpine was struggling. Dumbfounded about Aston Martin's pace, the following conversation took place in the Alpine pit wall.
Fuck if Aston done what they've done, though.
Well, they've hired a bunch of aerodynamicists from Red Bull.
We need to fucking do that.
On one hand, this conversation gave a damning verdict of Alpine's lack of vision, but on the other hand, it showed that Lawrence Stroll's ambition to win hasn't slowed down. The footage on your screen was captured on March 3rd by the cameras of Sky Italia. Christian Horner and Jos Verstappen engaged in a heated argument. Clearly, they were in complete disagreement about something, and that is most likely connected to the sexual assault scandal. Later that very day, a photograph of Toto Wolff, Verstappen's father, and Verstappen's manager was leaked. What could they be discussing? Could it have something to do with the transfer of a certain unhappy Dutchman? Verstappen increasingly looks unhappy. Horner dared him, saying, "It's like anything in life, you can't force somebody to be somewhere just because of a piece of paper." But what really is the motivation behind Verstappen's move? Is it because, like Schumacher, Hamilton and Vettel, he also wants to prove himself in another team? Could it be because they want to sack his mentor helmet? Or is it out of jealousy that despite his wins this year, Horner is the one getting all the media attention? Motorsport's Adam Cooper summed it up quite well. Verstappen doesn't want to stay if Horner remains in charge as team principal. And he doesn't want to stay if Red Bull advisor and close supporter Helmut Marko leaves, whether it to be to Mercedes or Aston, and for 2025 or 2026. It's apparent that we have to be prepared for some big Verstappen news possibly as early as in the next few weeks. On today's episode, we will tell you why it makes no sense for Max to join Mercedes. Aston Martin is his only option. Hit the subscribe button to support the channel. Welcome to Front Lockout. At the end of the race in Saudi Arabia, Hamilton broke a record that Mercedes is ashamed of. As if being beaten by a rookie wasn't bad enough, Hamilton's total of a mere 8 points is the least amount of points he has scored in the first two races of the season since the new scoring system was introduced in 2010. 3 years into the ground effect era, Mercedes has learned nothing. First, they blamed the zero side pod design for their woes, only for Newey to reintroduce that same design in 2024 and dominate. This indictment of the team shows a lack of talent, motivation, or synergy. In the first race of the season, Mercedes had the lowest top speed of 313 km/h. By the second race, they panicked about their lack of pace and reduced their rear wing load. While this made them the second fastest team in Jeddah, it came at a steep price. Their cornering became compromised, and as if that was not bad enough, porpoising reappeared on the W15. This is not a team that any top driver wants to go. Mercedes is gradually slipping to the midfield. No matter how much Verstappen hates Red Bull, he cannot go to a struggling team. Ferrari is the team closest to beating Red Bull, but Hamilton's move has made it impossible. Aston Martin, on the other hand, proved last year that they can build a winner. In 2022, they snapped up Dan Fallows from Red Bull, and last year the technical director helped them to 8 podiums. Just a few days ago, they scavenged whatever is left of Alpine for Bob Bell. The engineer is now their executive director. But they didn't just attract the best talents, they are also building a new factory to underline their ambition for the future. This is the team to watch out for. You can be as much of a genius as you want, but if you do not have the engine, then you are doomed anyway. Nobody understands this better than Newey himself. It's very frustrating that we've been pushed into a position where we've got an engine which is quite a long way behind, with all sorts of failings and with no obvious light at the end of the tunnel. Those were the exact words of Newey in 2015. At the time, the turbo hybrid era has just been introduced, and Red Bull were struggling with their Renault engine. Mercedes had done the best job of building the best power units, rendering Adrian Newey's aerodynamics genius to waste. Fast forward to today, Red Bull now finds itself with a relatively untested engine supplier in Ford. The last time Ford built an F1 engine was 20 years ago. Red Bull played a game of chess with Honda, and they lost. They thought Honda had no options, only for the Japanese supplier to switch to Aston Martin from 2026. And this is another good reason why Max must consider Aston Martin. He must realize that Red Bull and Audi, with new engines in 2026, will struggle. The smart thing is to continue with a proven engine, rather than hoping that Ford delivers. If Ford messes up the engine, which looks pretty likely given their lack of recent experience, 2025 could be the last time Verstappen wins another title before he retires. What do you think of Aston Martin? Do you also feel they provide the best opportunity for Max? Let us know in the comments. This is Front Lockout, signing off.